All right, so everybody can see this shared screen. There's a question. This is one of the latest papers. This is 2021 ka ek question. Question number 7. It is worth around a good number of marks, 4 plus 5. 9 plus 4, 13. 13 mark question. LGS ko to ye mila bhi tha in the exam. All right, so we've got particles P and Q that have masses m kg and 2 m kg respectively. The particles are initially held at rest 6.4 meters apart on the same line of greatest slope of a rough plane, inclined at an angle alpha to the horizontal, where sine alpha is given as 0.8. Particle P is released from rest and slides down the line of greatest slope. What it means is that it just slides down. Greatest slope is just like an additional thing. कि जितनी वो slope दी हुई है sin alpha के हिसाब से, it is going to slide based on that. So why is the sin alpha given to you? How helpful is it, and what should one be doing with the sin alpha? Well, one can make a small triangle. Sin alpha is 0.8, which can be written as 8 over 10, which can be reduced as 4 by 5. That makes the hypotenuse 5 and the perpendicular 4, which makes the base 3. So one can say cos alpha is going to be 3 by 5, and one can say that 3 by 5 becomes 0.6. So cos alpha is 0.6, while sin alpha is 0.8, making a small triangle that you would do in trigonometry. Guys, आवाज सही आ रही है? I forgot that mic was बहुत दूर. Now is the sound better?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we were saying that particles P and Q जो हैं वो mass m है और एक mass 2m है. ईशा, कल हम लोगों ने देखा है कि weight component we know can be broken down into 2 parts. So one is mg, which makes it 10m. Sin alpha is going to be the weight component acting down for particle P. Get the P is released from rest, slides down the line of greatest slope. Simultaneously, particle Q is projected up the same line of greatest slope at a speed of 10 meters per second. So this is the initial speed that is given to this object, 10 meters per second. The coefficient of friction between each particle and the plane is 0.6. So anybody who is not done friction has a formula that is equal to mu, which is the coefficient of friction, times r. R is the normal reaction to the surface. Those who haven't done it, unke liye I will do that in detail later. For now, we are incorporating a lot of different people here. So the weight acting down is 20 m sine of alpha, mg. 2m is the mass, times 10 is 20 m sine alpha is the weight component acting down. This they show that the acceleration of Q up the plane is negative 11.6. Now, when something is projected up, there is no other force acting on it other than its weight and the friction. Friction always opposes motion. So friction's direction is also going to be downwards. There is nothing that is driving this object up. Only the initial speed that was given to it is what, or it's, one could say inertia or momentum is what carries it on. Aage. There's no driving force. So there's zero driving force. And what are we going to use to get this acceleration? We're going to use the basic principle that F net is equal to mass times acceleration. So F net, 0 is the driving force, minus we have friction as well as the weight component. So weight is 20 m sine of alpha, and we will take away friction from it as well. So I'll separately find friction out and we'll plug it in here. Is equal to ma, 2m being the mass times a. Now let me take friction out really quickly. Friction is going to be equal to mu r. So mu is something that is provided to us as 0.6 times R. R is the normal reaction to the surface. Now, this surface has a weight component which is perpendicular to the surface, the normal component, or iske directly, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So इसीलिए इसके opposite R है. So what is this component equal to? This component is equal to 20 m cos of alpha. So one can say that friction is equal to 0.6 multiplied by 20 m cos alpha. Now, you know that ये 0 और ये कट गया, so that's like 12 m, and you know cos alpha की value is 0.6. तो अगर हमें मानूर बता देगी कि 0.6 times 12 कितना होता है? 7.2 m, है ना मानूर?
7.2 है.
Okay, 7.2 है. मारूख आप भी बता देना. 0 minus 20 m, ठीक है माज, और साइन अल्फा की जगह हमने लिख दिया 0.8. माज इसका भी तुम निकाल के रख लो. फ्रिक्शन मैंने 7.2 m निकाली भी हम लोगों ने 2 ma. अब माज ये डेसिमल और ये 0 कट गया, 2 8 से 16 m. So negative 16 m, negative 7.2 m is equal to 2 ma. हम मास कहते हैं कि मास और मास कैंसिल हो जाएगा, और तुमने ये कैलकुलेट किया 16 और 7.2 को एक्यूमुलेट किया, कितना बना? डिवाइड बाय 2 भी करना. सो RV
23.2 divided by 2 हो जाएगा और 11.6.
ठीक हो गया. 23.2 डिवाइड बाय 2 हो जाएगा, तो ये आ गया 11.6 मीटर पर सेकेंड स्क्वायर. ईशा, समझ में आया आपको? F net equals ma किया है हमने. ईशा is here. Yeah, she's here. जी.
Yes, sir.
All right, ठीक है. और फ्रिक्शन हमने यूज किया mu r, and we were able
Sir,
to.
friction, I don't really know the concept, but वो आप बाद में करा दें.
ठीक है, बिल्कुल करा दूंगा. Just have the look of the formula only. Alone, friction is the formula mu times r. I'll get into the details of that. So, लेकिन you get the concept कि एक weight नीचे act कर रहा है, friction नीचे act कर रही है, object ऊपर जा रहा है plane के, there's nothing driving it up, there's weight keeping it from going up, and there's friction which is opposing motion. So weight component as well as friction are directed down is equal to ma. That gets you the particular answer. Now, for the second part.
सर आपने जो 0 माइनस किया वो 0 क्या था?
0 is the no driving force. The idea that there's nothing driving it forward. ऊपर प्रोजेक्ट हुआ था ना, तो ऊपर की तो फोर्स ही कोई नहीं है. वो तो धक्का दे दिया एक दफा, बस उसकी धक्के की वजह से ऊपर जा रहा है. वो एक स्पीड दे दी, उसी की वजह से ऊपर जा रहा है. ठीक हो गया माज? All right. So then we look at part B. Find the time for which the particles are in motion before they collide. So in this particular case, because this is really important, find the time, I repeat, find the time for which the particles are in motion before they collide. Now, how many marks is this? This is 5 marks. Now, the marks is an indicator कि इस particular case के अंदर there might be some complexity involved. The time taken before they collide. So generally, whenever we talk about things that collide, like for example, एक object है, नीचे से ऊपर फेंकते हो आप, एक ऊपर से नीचे आ रहा है ऑब्जेक्ट और एक नीचे से ऊपर फेंक रहे हो ऑब्जेक्ट, और वो कोलाइड कहाँ करता है? बीच में कहीं करता है. यूजुअली व्हाट वी से इज कि अगर ये ऑब्जेक्ट ए है, ये ऑब्जेक्ट बी है, तो डिस्प्लेसमेंट ऑफ ऑब्जेक्ट ए और डिस्टेंस ट्रैवल्ड बाय ऑब्जेक्ट बी इज इक्वल टू द ओरिजिनल गैप बिटवीन देम, जो भी उनके बीच का गैप था. दिस इज द थॉट प्रोसेस इन जनरल. नाउ हाउएवर, if that was the case, then displacement of object P as it goes down plus displacement of object Q as it goes up should be equal to 6.4. That's a fairly easy question then.
सर यहाँ पे डिस्प्लेसमेंट तो नहीं, यहाँ पे डिस्टेंस नहीं होगा क्योंकि डिस्प्लेसमेंट तो वर्टिकल होगी.
displacement vertical nahi hai, displacement along the line. So we're saying Maaz Akif, not the vertical displacement, like
The
don't.
shortest distance to vertical banta hai.
No. Shortest distance. Okay, so displacement along the line. It is not shortest distance. Energy method to nahi hai, ya energy ki concept to nahi kar rahe. Shortest distance along the line. That's displacement. If you have issues with calling it displacement, you can call it distance.
ये ठीक है सर समझ आ गया.
As you go up, dekho, this is not the problem, Maz. The problem is bigger than what we are talking about. Lekin acha tumhari clarity aa gayi usme. So the problem is कि it can't be that simple. कि ये जो ऊपर से नीचे ऑब्जेक्ट आ रहा है, अच्छा ये जो ऊपर से नीचे ऑब्जेक्ट आ रहा है इसके बारे में तो हमने कोई इन्वेस्टिगेशन ही नहीं की. Well, what we can say is the weight component that is driving this object down minus what will oppose it is going to be its friction. And that friction is the same formula, mu r. Mu is 0.6 and r for this case is the normal reaction to the surface, which is going to be 10 m cos alpha. So 10 m cos of alpha, like we did over here, 20 m cos alpha niche wale ka kiya tha. That was the normal reaction to the surface. So for object P,
सर हम लोगों ने 10 क्यों लिया?
mg, m को मल्टीप्लाई करते 10 के साथ mg, इस वजह से हमने 10 m लिया. So 10 m cos alpha mass is the weight component acting down. Friction will oppose the motion, which is 0.6 into 10 m. The weight component acting down is 10 m sin alpha, not cos. 10 m cos alpha is equal to ma. This is the equation that you'd have. The mass cancels throughout. 10 times sin alpha. Sin alpha we knew was what, 0.8. So this is 8 minus 6 times cos alpha. Cos alpha was 0.6 is equal to a. So 8 minus 3.6 is a. Acceleration comes out as 4.4 meter per second square for this object P as it travels down. इसने नीचे आना है. इसने Q का क्या काम है? What's going to happen to Q? We've already found out the deceleration that Q has. So the idea is कि Q के साथ हमने सोचना है कि what is the weird thing or a different thing, or you have to think outside the box. You have to question yourself. Will Q stop before they collide? This is a question you have to ask yourself. Will Q come to a stop before they collide? If that happens, then it's a whole different story. कि P नीचे से ऊपर से नीचे आ रहा है, Q ऊपर नीचे से ऊपर जा रहा है, and they collide midway somewhere. एक फर्क ये versus the story that okay ऊपर से P नीचे आ रहा है, लेकिन Q ऊपर जाता है और रुक जाता है, and then it starts to come down, and P, which is speeding up, is then colliding later on with Q. So we need to investigate this little phenomena, because that is what they wanted, the time for which the particles are in motion before they collide. So our task is to find out where do they collide. That will help us to find out when do they collide. So we will check with Q's initial speed of 10 upwards, with deceleration that Q has of negative 11.6. When does Q stop? When does he stop? And what is the distance at the for up the plane when it stops? So we use the first equation of motion. V is equal to u plus at. V is 0. U is 10. A is negative 11.6 times t. Please get me the time value. 10 over 11.6 in numbers and all the significant figures that we can get. Okay, it's good not to round.
0.862.
Hello, Abdullah. What is the answer?
0.862.
0.862 seconds is the time that we get when this object comes to a stop. We also would want to find out what's the distance up the plane that it has traveled. V square equals u square plus 2as. V is 0 square. U is 10 squared. 2 times the acceleration, negative 11.6 times s. This gets us the value for the distance, which is 100 divided by whatever that 2 times 11.6 gets us, which was 23.2, I believe. 23.2. So ye kitna distance bana Maaz Akif? How much distance is this? Okay, bad is also
So
answer.
4.3.
4.3 meters. 4.3 meters. Now we need to find out कि P object इसी time में कितना distance नीचे आया. Object P is initially at rest. It accelerates down with an acceleration of 4.4. Where did we find that? We found that earlier, object P के लिए. Earlier निकाल लिया या इसके बाद निकाल लो. Object P के लिए कि 4.4 जो है acceleration down the plane है. Weight component minus friction is equal to ma किया था. ठीक है ईशा? F net is equal to ma किया है. हम ये find out करना चाह रहे हैं कि time 11 time was 0.862. 0.862 time पे object P ने कितना distance travel किया. We want to find that out. That can easily be found by using ut plus half at square. 0 times t 0.862 को फायदा तो है नहीं लिखने का, लेकिन चलो just to tell you कि कौन सी equation use कर रहे हैं. 4.4 times t square, 0.862 का square. So this gets us, अगर कोई मुझे निकाल के दे दे ये value, half into 4.4 into 0.862 का square. Hello, Areeb. Anybody?
1.634.
1.634 meters. So that's the distance traveled by P. The distance traveled by Q at that instant when Q stops was 4.3. So 1.634 plus 4.3. We need to find out what is this value going to be equal to. So when you calculate this, this comes out as 5.934 meters. Now, 5.934 meters means the gap between them was 6.4. And the sum that we have right now is 5.934. This shows that they have not collided. And and the object जो नीचे से ऊपर जा रहा था, object Q has come to a stop and there is no collision. So what is still the gap between them? What's the gap? So we reconsider the scenario. ये object P है ऊपर से जो नीचे आ रहा है, object Q रुक चुका है. Object Q has come to a stop. And the gap between them, और time कितना गुजर चुका है? Time गुजर चुका है 0.862 seconds. Collision nahi hua hai. But we are further into our investigation. We are not on the wrong path. We are on the right path. The gap between them is 6.4 minus 5.934. Ye kitna banta hai ji distance? 6.4 minus
0.466.
0.466 meters. So Maaz Akif, when they do finally hit each other, P is going to further move down, covering the distance that P will now cover is not only going to be the distance that Q further moves down, but also the 0.466 gap needs to be bridged. Do we all agree to this? Isha, P ऊपर से नीचे आ रहा है, इसने 0.466 भी कवर करना है और उतना डिस्टेंस कवर करना है जो Q भी कवर करेगा आगे.
Yes, sir.
Done. अच्छा, अब इसमें because we had put a reset, we needed to know the speed at the instant. Q की तो speed initial है at after Q stops or when Q stops. Initial velocity for P was, जो ऊपर से नीचे आ रहा था P, किस speed से आ रहा है जी P? हमने निकाला है. We have not found that out. We need that. Because we need that to find out displacement ka equation. Initial velocity of P will be equals to U plus AT, the original जो शुरू से acceleration थी 4.4 times time था 0.862. अगर ये थोड़ा सा अजीब लग रहा है तो I can say पिछले पार्ट के मोशन में the final velocity of P after 0.862 seconds is the initial velocity for the next motion. तो इस वजह से हमने उसको V is equal to U plus AT कर सकते हैं for object P. V is equal to 0 plus acceleration 4.4 times time. Time is 0.862. Mazakif, ये कितना बना? 4.4 times 0.862.
So
3.75.
3.75 meters per second. That's the 79 meters per second. ये हमें चाहिए था. सोच रहे होगे कोई क्यों चाहिए? भाई इसलिए चाहिए because displacement of P will be UT 3.79 times T plus half A, which is 4.4 T square is equal to displacement of Q. अब Q भी नीचे जा रहा है. What about Q's speed? Q की initial speed 0 है, तो 0t तो उड़ गया. 0 times t वो उड़ गया. Half into acceleration. T square plus 0.466. अच्छा, अब acceleration of Q क्या होगा? What's the acceleration of Q? So if you are wondering कि acceleration of Q कैसे निकालेंगे, तो वही story कर सकते हैं आप कि weight component of Q, which was 20 m sine alpha, minus friction 20 m sine alpha minus friction, which is mu r, which is 20 m cos alpha, is equal to 2 ma. So m and m cancel. Sine alpha was 8 or 6? It was sine alpha was 0.8. So this is 0.8 minus 0.6 times 20 and cos alpha was 0.6 is equal to 2a. ये आपने solve किया. 2 8 is 16. इसको उड़ा दिया. 6 to the 12. 12 times 6 is 7.2 equals 2a. And this amounts to 6 plus 2.8, 8.8. 8.8 is equal to 2a and acceleration comes out as 4.4 meter per second square. The acceleration is still the same. उसके लिए भी 4.4 थी. जो P ऊपर से आ रहा है नीचे, उसके लिए भी acceleration 4.4 है और Q के लिए भी acceleration 4.4 है. तुम में से कुछ लोगों की थोड़ी मैकेनिक्स, थोड़ी फिजिक्स के कॉन्सेप्ट जरा ज्यादा स्ट्रांग होंगे, तो ये तुम लोग कहोगे कि आई डू नॉट नीड टू डू दिस इन्वेस्टिगेशन, आई न्यू already that this would have been 4.4. Well, okay, fair enough. If you knew this already, तो बहुत ही अच्छी बात है. बाकी लोगों के लिए मैंने ये सारा thought process कर दिया था. So 4.4 t square, 0.466, 3.79 t plus half times 4.4 t square. And the good news is that these two cancel. So all you do for the new t value is 0.466 को 3.79 से divide किया. What does it come out as, Abdullah and Maaz? कोई भी बता दे. 0.466 divided by 3.79. What's the value for t that we're getting?
0.12.
0.12 seconds. So the 1, 2, 3. देखो 3 significant. Maaz आके तुम खा जाते हो ना कुछ significant figures. You will lose marks मुफ्त के.
सर माइक बंद हो गया.
अच्छा 0. Okay, all right. 0.123 plus the 0.862, क्योंकि 0.862 उसको लगा था नीचे आने में, रुकने में, और 0.123 उसके बाद सेकंड्स लगे हैं इसको फर्दर हिट करने में. ऐड किया तो ये तुम लोगों के पास आ गया 0.985 सेकंड्स.
सर वैसे अगर दोनों पार्टिकल्स की एक्सेलरेशन सेम है तो हाउ विल दे कैच अप?
बिकॉज पी की इनिशियल स्पीड ज्यादा है, क्यू की 0 है. दैट्स हाउ दे विल कैच अप. गुड क्वेश्चन, बट you got the answer to that. Good job, Maaz Akif. Now comes the, I hope ye wali baat samajh aayi. I can repeat this, or no, I don't need to repeat this. I'll share the recording and you'll see the repetition yourself. Okay, then comes the last part. Find the particles coalesce on impact. Now, Isha, ye tumne ye concept nahi dekha hua, but I'll just, maybe physics mein thoda sa dekha bhi hai. There's a concept of law of conservation of momentum, which says,
I know about it.
oh, behtareen ho gaya. So that means momentum before collision is equal to momentum after collision. Uska ye formula hai. Ye ek formula hai. ये वो वाला formula है when objects coalesce, means they become one unit, so it's a combined mass then. So ये जो ऊपर से object नीचे आ रहा है जिसका वजन उन्होंने नहीं दिया हुआ और उन्होंने 2m बताया और नीचे वाले का 2m बताया, right? तो कहते हैं the particles coalesce on impact, find the speed of the combined particles immediately after impact. तो भाई आपका काम ये था कि आप ये फाइंड आउट कर लो कि इन दोनों पार्टिकल्स की स्पीड क्या क्या है. उप्स, पी की स्पीड क्या है जब इतना टाइम गुजर चुका है. फॉर पी यू कैन से v इज इक्वल टू u प्लस एक्सेलरेशन. अगर 4.4 यूज करो तो टाइम p के लिए आप 0.985 यूज कर सकते हो, और Q के लिए आप यूज कर सकते हो v इज इक्वल टू u प्लस 80 अगेन कर सकते हो. उसमें इनिशियल वेलोसिटी 0, एक्सेलरेशन 4.4, और टाइम की वैल्यू Q के लिए आप यूज कर लो जो आप लेटर ऑन निकाली है जब वो हिट हुए 0.123. वो आपने यूज कर लिया 0.123. ओके माज आकिफ और अब्दुल्ला, दोनों में से कोई भी प्लीज गिव मी द वेलोसिटी वैल्यूज. 4.4 into 0.985, what does that give us?
Sir, for Q, it's 0.54.
0.54 meter per second. And for P, what is it?
4.334.
4.334 meter per second. So particle P was mass m. And so I'll write it down here. Particle P was mass m. Its speed on impact was 4334. Particle Q was mass 2m. On impact, its speed was 0.54, acting downwards, which is why both have the same signs. Upon impact, they become m plus 2m. So the overall mass is 3m times their combined velocity. That is what they wanted us to find out. So you'll add this up, you'll divide. So what is 2 times 0.54 plus 4.334? What does that give us? 2 multiplied by 5.54, 1.08. 1.08 plus this.
Sir, 5.414.
5.414 m is equal to 3 mv. M and M cancel, so Abdullah, V comes out as 5.414 divided by 3. And that,
48.
what is it?
1.8.
1.8 meters per second. So guys, this is one of the questions. This was one of the questions which a lot of people got wrong when it came on the exam for the very first time. क्योंकि इसमें बहुत कुछ था, इसमें friction था, weight component थे, इसके अंदर kinematics था, momentum था, और kinematics में भी complication थी, when does it stop and all that. All right. So guys, I will share this recording and you can go over it, pause and wherever you want, pause and reflect.